Hey guys, tonight we're going somewhere cold, wet, wind-carved, the kind of place you can only get to by boat, and only if the sea decides to let you. It's the edge of nowhere, a jagged little rock with one job, to hold up a lighthouse, and 3 men. You're one of them. The air stings your face as the launch pulls away, leaving you with 2 strangers, 6 months of food, and the sensation that you've just stepped off the map. There's no radio, no phone, just a schedule. Light the lamp, record the weather, survive the sea. You probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, drop your location and the local time in the comments. I love seeing where and when you're tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You shoulder your pack and trudge up the narrow, salt-slick path to the tower. The place smells like mildew and old onions. Thomas, the head keeper, is already barking orders like this is a ship, and you're the bilge. James, the assistant, barely speaks, just nods and scribbles in the logbook with that jittery kind of energy that says, I don't ought to sleep much. You unpack in silence. Your bunk is stiff, your boots stay damp, and the whole place hums. Not with electricity, but wind. Wind in the stones. Wind in the floorboards. Wind that somehow sounds like footsteps just below your own. There's no mainland in sight, just waves. An infinite bruise of ocean, dark and rolling. That night, you eat something that might have been a potato and settle into your bunk with a sigh. But sleep doesn't come easy. The lighthouse creaks in a way that feels intentional, like it's trying to talk to you or warn you. The sea outside is quiet, but not the good kind of quiet. The kind that means something's watching. Quirky fact, the Flannan Isles, a real-life cluster of rocks off Scotland's west coast, once lost 3 keepers under eerily similar conditions. The logbook ended mid-sentence. No bodies were found, only a clock that had stopped, and a meal left untouched. Historians still argue whether it was the storm, madness, or something else entirely. You don't care what they say. You're here now. You feel it already. This rock doesn't like visitors. And the worst part, you volunteered. The next morning hits like a slap, the kind that doesn't sting until later. You wake to Thomas shouting something from the tower. You don't catch the words, but the tone. Definitely get your boots now. You scramble up the spiral stairs, 2 at a time, breath fogging in the damp cold. At the top, Thomas points out to sea, his fingers trembling, though he'd never admit it. Nothing's there, not a boat, not a seal, just waves. But he insists, says he saw movement, like a person, maybe 2, out on the rocks. James mutters something about mirages and disappears back down the stairs. Thomas doesn't speak again for hours. You learn the rhythm of this place quickly. Every day is a copy of the last. Maintain the light, keep the log, monitor the weather, boil potatoes, listen to the wind, mock your sanity. Thomas gets quieter, James gets jumpier. You, meanwhile, start noticing small things. Your boots moved. A page in the logbook dog-eared, even though you're certain you hadn't touched it. Once, just before dawn, you hear 3 sharp knocks on the heavy wooden door. Then nothing. No wind, no gulls, no one. Mainstream history time. Lighthouses in the 19th century were manned in brutal isolation. Keepers were known to crack under the pressure. Hallucinations, full-blown arguments with their reflections. Or worse, some had to be removed in straitjackets. No one ever talks about that part on the guided tours. You stop mentioning the weird stuff, Thomas won't hear it. James already thinks the place is alive. You just do your job, try to sleep, and pretend the floorboards don't creak like footsteps pacing above your head. Then, one night, the storm comes. Not rain, not wind. Fog, thick, greasy, heavy as a nightmare. It rolls in before dusk and doesn't leave. You can't see 10 feet from the tower. The lamp flickers, chokes, stays lit, but barely. The foghorn moans like a dying animal. And then the knocking comes again. Same pattern. 3 knocks. You and James check the door together. Nothing. Next morning, Thomas is missing. No blood, no footprints. His coat's still hanging by the door. The logbook, open to a blank page. Just 3 words written in huge, frantic strokes. Do not follow. You don't speak. Neither does James. You both just stare at the page like it might catch fire if you look away. Quirky fact. On the Flannan Isles, a final note in the log mentioned strange voices on the wind and something in the sea. It's never been verified, but it's there, in copies, hidden between the lines. Historians still argue whether it was real. You're past that. Now, you just want to know who or what keeps knocking. You and James search every inch of the island. Together at first, then separately, even though splitting up feels like handing your sanity a rusty knife and saying, have at it. The cliffs are slick with sea spray. The air tastes like iron. Every crevice, every hollow, empty. No Thomas, no coat, no boots, no final scream trapped in the rocks. Just seagulls circling above like they're waiting for something to rot. James tries to act like it's fine. Says maybe Thomas just went for a walk. A walk in gale force fog with no lantern. You both know better. By nightfall, your hands are raw from gripping the stones. The fog hasn't lifted. It hugs the tower like it wants inside. The kind of fog that seeps through cracks, whispers through keyholes. That night, you take shifts keeping the light burning. James first. You wrap yourself in a blanket near the stove, watching shadows flicker on the walls, like they're reenacting scenes from your nightmares. Half an hour in, you hear James calling from the top, but not with his voice. It's higher, off-key, like someone mocking him in a child's tone. You rush up. He's pale, sweating, pointing toward the lantern room. It was in there, he whispers. It. He doesn't answer. You check the room. Nothing. Just the light spinning lazy circles over empty water. Back downstairs, James is shaking. I heard him, he says. Thomas. He nods. Singing. You don't ask what song. You don't want to know. Mainstream detail here. Many early lighthouse towers were said to amplify sound in strange ways. Wind, waves, even footsteps echoed like voices. Acoustic illusions, they called them. But this isn't an illusion. You hear it too. Later. Not singing. Whispering. Right up against the stone walls. A voice like dry leaves brushing bone. You can't tell the words. You try covering your ears. It doesn't help. James stops sleeping. You catch him muttering to the walls, sometimes smiling. Once, you find him staring at the sea, mumbling something about the light below. You're not sure what that means. Quirky aside, some lighthouse legends spoke of reverse lights, phantom beacons seen from the water, under the surface, drawing ships not away from danger, but toward it. No proof, of course, but old sailors swore by them. You start dreaming in circles. Every dream ends with fog, or the sound of knocking. Always three, always from the other side of something. James begins keeping the log again. You flip through it one morning when he's dozing. His entries are strange. Door opened at 3:17, nothing there. Smell of salt. Sound from well, like rope dragging. Eye in the water, still blinking. Historians still argue whether logbooks like these are hoaxes, scribbled by later visitors or dramatized in retellings. But this, you're reading it fresh, ink still wet. And then James vanishes too, just like Thomas. 1 minute he's stoking the stove. Next minute, gone. No noise, no note. The only new thing, the logbook. It's open again. Same page, new words. Written in your handwriting, even though you didn't write it. Next time, answer. You stare at the words. Next time, answer. They shimmer faintly, like ink still drying. But you didn't write them. Swear on every breath you've ever taken. You didn't. Your mouth is dry. You flip the page. Blank. Flip again. Still blank. You touch the edge of the paper. It's warm. You call for James, louder now, even though you know what silence you'll get back. You run to every room, every corner. Your voice echoes through the tower like it's trying to find someone to become. Nothing. Not even footprints this time. No sound either. The whisperings stopped. The fog outside is still thick, but now it feels heavy, like it's watching. You check the lantern. Still burning. Still sweeping. But the light doesn't feel helpful anymore. It feels curious, like it's trying to see you better. Back downstairs, you sit by the stove. The fire crackles. That's something. You wonder, is this how people lose themselves? Not in one big scream, but in tiny moments of silence that start replacing their name. You read through the logbook again, slowly. Every page starts looking like it's written in code. One entry jumps out. Don't trust the reflection. It lies when it smiles. You glance toward the window. It's dark out, but your reflection's there, staring back, perfectly still. Except your shoulders aren't hunched like that, and you're not smiling. Mainstream sidebar, lighthouse glass, particularly the thick bullseye lenses, can distort reflections eerily. Faces elongated, mouths widened. Some researchers have blamed prolonged exposure to these distortions for reports of phantom twins and doubled sightings. Your heart's thudding now. You step back, and the reflection blinks. You slam the logbook shut and light every lamp you can find. Oil burns fast, but fear burns faster. The tower glows like a funeral pyre. Still no James, still no Thomas, just you and the reflection. You board up the mirror in the bedroom. You try to ignore the window's curve. Days pass, or hours. Time gets weird when you stop speaking aloud. You stop counting. The birds vanish. The sea, once restless, feels too calm, like it's waiting for something. Then, one night, you hear it again. Knocking. 3 slow taps from beneath the floor. You freeze. You wait. It stops. Then starts again. Different place this time. Like something circling underneath the tower. You don't move. You don't breathe. Because something tells you, whatever it is, it's learning your rhythm. Quirky fact. In 1899, a keeper off the coast of Wales reported hearing tapping sounds inside the tower S foundation during storms. He wrote that they mimicked his footsteps after a week. Most historians chalk it up to pressure changes and shifting stones. But you're not in a book. You're in this. And the knocking, it's not random anymore. It's Morse. You dig out the guide from the supply shelf. Dots and dashes. You sit beside the stove and transcribe it with shaking fingers. L-E-A-V-E. You whisper it aloud. The tower groans. You rush to the door. It won't open. You don't remember locking it. You try the radio. Dead. No static. Just silence. Worse than noise. You climb to the top, hard hammering. Lantern still spinning. The fog's clearing. You see lights on the water. A ship. It's not supposed to be here. You haven't signaled anyone. You try the lamp. Flash 3 times. No response. Then you realize the ship isn't moving. Not forward. Not rocking. It's just there, like a photo glued to the sea. You grab the binoculars, raise them, and there, on the deck, James, standing, still, facing you, eyes wide, mouth open, not shouting, just open. And beside him, Thomas, both of them, smiling, wrongly, too much teeth. You drop the binoculars. They clatter down the stairs. You don't go after them, because now the knocking's not beneath the floor. It's behind you. 3 taps, and a whisper. Your turn. You spin around so fast your balance stumbles, nearly toppling down the spiral staircase. You catch yourself, barely, one hand gripping the cold iron railing, the other clenched tight enough around the flashlight to hurt. No one there, of course. The tower's empty, but not quiet, because now, in between the knocks, you hear breathing. It's not yours. You're panting like a cornered animal, sure, but this sound, it's slower, measured. Inhale, exhale, the kind of breath that doesn't belong to someone trying to live, but something that always has. You descend, slowly. Each step feels heavier. When you hit the ground floor, you scan the shadows. You try to focus, but something's shifting in the room. Subtle, like depth being rearranged. Corners seem further away than they should be. Lines blur. Your sense of distance, off. You open the logbook again. A fresh line has appeared. Different handwriting. Blocky. Jagged. Tell them what you saw. You slam it shut. Nope. You didn't sign up for sentient stationery. Except, maybe you did. You flip to the front, the dedication page. There's a name there now. Yours. Mainstream historical note. Some lighthouses kept communal logbooks meant to span decades, not just a single crew. The prevailing theory is that ghost entries were later hoaxes or mistakes. But not all. Some match the handwriting of men long presumed lost. You back away from the desk, and the mirror. Yeah, that mirror you boarded up. It's clear again. You didn't remove the boards, but it's clean. Reflective. Too reflective. Because what you see in it isn't you. It's the room, but wrong. Off by just enough. The oil lamp's on the wrong side. The desk chair's pulled out, and someone is sitting in it, writing. They look up, meet your eyes, and nod. Just once. You bolt up the stairs, 2 at a time, lungs burning. You reach the lantern room, slam the hatch behind you, and brace it with your whole body. You don't cry, yet, but your hands shake. You sit against the glass, and there, again, the sea. That ship, still motionless. You look without the binoculars now. You don't need them. James is gone. Thomas too. But something's on the deck. A bundle. You squint. It's the logbook. yours. Another quirk. In 1910, a ship passing by Island Moor claimed to see a book lying on the island S Edge. Before anyone knew the keepers were missing. By the time investigators arrived, it was gone. Most dismissed the account, but some think it was left intentionally. You wait. The fog creeps in again. That strange pressure, the feeling of a sky about to crack open, wraps around you. You want to sleep, but you're scared of what your eyes might do while you're not watching. Then, a sound. Soft. From below. Footsteps. You whisper James's name. Nothing. The footsteps continue. They're not in a hurry. They're ascending. You press your ear to the floor. The tower speaks again. Not in words this time. In music. Barely audible. Humming. The same melody from before. You hum it back without realizing, and something clicks. The lock on the hatch slides open by itself. You back away. You've got nothing left in your hands, not even fear. That peeled off hours ago.
You just wait. And then, a face rises through the hatch. Not James, not Thomas, not anyone you know, but familiar. Because it's you, from the mirror, from the wrong side. They smile, and speak with your voice. You finally stopped resisting. You don't scream. You just laugh, quiet, defeated, curious, because you're starting to understand. The light isn't for warning ships, it's for watching you. The logbook isn't for recording, it's for remembering. And the tower? It's not a building. It's a stage. For retellings. Historians still argue whether the disappearances on remote lighthouses were due to madness, misadventure, or myth. Some say wind pressure caused hallucinations. Others blame isolation. A few believe in something deeper, a system, ancient and veiled, repeating until someone notices. And you? You've noticed. So now what? The other, you offers a hand. Not threatening, not kind, just inevitable. You take it, because maybe the only way out is to finish the story.
You grip the other hand, your own, not yours. And for a moment, something disorients your brain in a way that has nothing to do with fear. It's like clasping a reflection. Your fingers fit perfectly, not just in size, but in rhythm. Your pulse sinks. There's no resistance. Then, you're pulled through. Not just down the hatch, through it. Because when your foot hits the stair, the tower changes. It's subtle at first, stone softer, stairs slightly wider. But then the smell changes too. Less salt, more incense. The walls are damp, but not with seawater. Something else. Something like memory. You blink. Blink again. You're in the lighthouse. But not this one. The same spiral, the same lantern top glowing somewhere above. But the colors are wrong. Muted. Like you're inside a painting left in the rain. You run a hand along the stone wall. It vibrates just slightly, like it's breathing. The other you is gone. Or ahead. Hard to tell now. Your feet keep moving. The staircase doesn't end. You pass windows, but none show the sea. Just sky. Sky in every direction, and not the sky you know. This one's red, then black, then full of birds flying in reverse. You keep walking, and finally, a door. A small one, wooden, with a plaque. It reads, "The keeper's last thought." You hesitate because, well, wouldn't you? But you open it anyway. Inside, a room. Simple, cozy even. Fire burning low. Chair, a table. A figure. Back to you. Writing. You step closer. They don't turn around, but they speak. You've come far. You nod. Swallow. You're writing the end, you ask. No, they say. You are. They slide a sheet of paper toward you without looking. You reach for it. It's blank, till your fingers touch it. Then words bleed out. Slowly. Like ink through cloth. They didn't disappear. They became. Your breath catches. Another line writes itself. One watched the sea. One kept the flame. And one, it stops. Waiting, you realize it's you. You're the third. The one who watched them. Who waited long enough for the loop to open. Quirky detail for the dreamers in the back. Some oral histories in Scotland speak of light twins. Figures said to appear when a lighthouse flame burned unnaturally long. They weren't ghosts. They were watchers, observers, the ones who remembered what others forgot. You look at the figure. They finally turn. It's James. No, Thomas. No, it's you again. But older, weathered, like time here folds in loops, always leading back to itself. They smile. You don't return it, because it's not funny. It's inevitable. You sit, take the pen, and start writing. Because whether it's a story, a warning, or just the way the light keeps itself company, someone has to keep the record. Mainstream historians say the mystery of Island Moor remains unsolved because no one was there to witness the end. But maybe the end didn't need a witness. Maybe it needed a scribe. And now, here you are. The fireplace crackles once. The ink runs out. But the paper, still blank. Waiting, you place the pen down gently, like it might shatter the silence. And the figure across from you, yourself but not quite, fades. Not vanishes, just fades. Like fog in reverse. The chair remains. The fire flickers, lower now. Shadows dance slower. The paper in front of you is still warm, still waiting. But you've written what needed to be written. For now, you stand. The room doesn't object, and when you open the door again, the tower is different. It's still a lighthouse, still spiraling, but the walls are glass now, clear. You can see everything. Sea crashing below, clouds tumbling above, birds hovering mid-flap, like someone paused the world. You keep walking. Every step forward makes the past behind you shimmer like heat waves. The top of the tower appears sooner than you expect. No more spiraling. Just arrival. You step into the lantern room. The beacon is lit, but it's not a flame. It's a pulse, slow, rhythmic, like the heartbeat of something that lives in the bones of the ocean. You step closer, and there's someone standing next to it. A woman. She turns. It's not Thalia, not Thomas, not James. Someone new, but familiar. She smiles like she's known you longer than you've been alive. You made it, she says. You nod, because there's nothing else to do. What is this place, you ask? She glances out the glass walls. The ocean outside is glowing faintly now, like it's remembering something too. It's the place between, she says, where the ones who remember wait for the ones who don't. Mainstream anchor here. Some 19th century mariners believed lighthouses weren't just warning signals, but markers of thin places, doorways essentially, between land and sea, between life and something else. That is why so many old journals refer to strange light and echoes of voices in empty towers. The idea, lighthouses didn't just save you, they changed you. You circle the room slowly. On the floor around the beacon, words have been carved. 3 names: James, Thomas, Donald. You trace them with your foot. There's a 4th, half finished. Just an initial. Yours, but not your current one. The one from before. You look back at the woman. She nods once, slow. You've been here before, she says. You want to protest, but don't. Because she's right. There's something ancient in your chest now. something that hums at the same frequency as this room. You reach out, touch the beacon, and the pulse stops. The light goes steady. Everything outside freezes. You're not scared. You're just still. The woman steps beside you and whispers. They didn't vanish. They stepped sideways. That phrase again, like a password passed through lifetimes. Why? You ask. She shrugs. They were tired of being the story. They wanted to keep it instead. The wind outside shifts, and you suddenly understand. You're not here to solve the mystery. You're here to become part of it. Quirky thought. In certain Norse and Celtic traditions, there are tales of anchor souls, people chosen to hold a place in memory when no one else would. They weren't heroes, just necessary. Lighthouses with lungs. You step back from the beacon. The room flickers, the floor hums, and you hear voices again. James, Thomas, Donald, laughing, talking, living, just enough to know they were real. The woman is gone now. Just the tower, and you, and the sea below, glowing like it's trying to say something it forgot a long time ago. You sit beside the light. You don't need to keep watch. The light does that. You just need to stay, just long enough for the next one to find the way. You're not sure how long you sit by the light. Time doesn't behave here, not like it does elsewhere. It stretches and folds, sighs and shifts. One moment, the stars are winking through the glass. The next, fog creeps up the tower walls, like it's curious about your presence. Eventually you stand. The tower doesn't protest. Outside the glass, the ocean has changed again. No longer calm. It's restless now, tossing and pulling like it's dreaming and can't quite settle. You descend the stairs. Each step downward feels like diving into something. Not water, not air, memory. The lighthouse has returned to stone again. The glass walls gone. Your reflection disappears from the windows. The beacon fades, but not out, just inside you, like you took it with you. When your feet hit the ground floor, something waits. Not someone, a trunk, old, iron-bound, unassuming, like it could have always been there, or never at all. You kneel. The lock is open. You lift the lid. Inside, papers, dozens of them, water-stained, wind-warped, names scratched in the corners. Thomas, Donald, James. One scroll stands out, wrapped in oilcloth, tied with twine. You untie it carefully, because things this old deserve reverence, not speed. It's a letter, written in thick strokes like the writer had something urgent to say and not much time. You read aloud. If this finds you, it means you came back, or forward. Hard to tell. You pause, blink, read on. We didn't leave because we were afraid. We left because we were full, too full, of sound, of salt, of stories we weren't allowed to keep. So we stored them here. You look up. The room is darker now, but warm. The letter continues. You have the light now. That makes you the keeper, not of this tower, but of the remembering. You pause again. That word. Again. Remembering. Mainstream drop. In older Scottish lighthouse records, the term keeper wasn't just for the person who manned the tower. In some texts, it also referred to someone who maintained oral histories of shipwrecks and safe returns. A living archive. Those logs weren't always recorded formally. Sometimes the keepers just knew. You keep reading. If the light ever flickers, don't panic. That's just someone else arriving. Make room. Pass the coin. Leave the chair warm. You look to the left. There's a chair now. Simple, wooden, worn. You sit in it. The trunk closes itself. You don't jump. Of course it does. On your lap now, Another scroll. Blank. Of course it is. You glance out the small window. The storm outside doesn't scare you. Storms never did. Not really. They're just the ocean's way of remembering out loud. You unroll the scroll. Your hand lifts the pen without instruction, and the ink begins to flow. You're not writing a story. You're transcribing something older, something louder, something that knows your name, even when you've forgotten it. Historians still argue whether the Flannan lighthouse incident was caused by human error, weather, or superstition. One journal mentions a rogue wave. Another claims a sea serpent sighting. A third simply reads, "Light out, men gone, keep the fire ready." You smile at that one, because now you get it. You're not solving anything. You're keeping the fire ready, a light for the next to follow, because someone always follows. Eventually, a knock breaks the silence, not a loud one, just enough. You open the door, and there's a figure in the fog, soaked, shivering, holding a letter. Their eyes meet yours, and you know what to say. "Come in. There's tea." Because you remember. Because now, it's your turn to make room. The kettle whistles. Before you remember, you put it on. You pour 2 mugs, hands steady now. No more of that hesitant tremble from before. The lighthouse isn't just letting you stay. It's depending on you now. And that somehow makes everything easier. Heavier, too. But in that good way. Like a wool blanket instead of a burden. The figure in the doorway accepts the mug with shaking fingers. Doesn't speak yet. Just sips. You sit across from them, mirroring their silence. Outside, the storm hasn't left, but it's calmed. More like it's circling now, watching to see what you'll do next. The figure finally speaks. Voice low, raw. "I saw it from the sea." You wait. The light. "I shouldn't have. I mean, the tower's supposed to be empty." You nod. They continue. "I was sailing west. Nothing but fog and fear. Then this beam, like someone was watching. Not warning. Watching." You nod again. "That's why it's here." They look up. "What is?" You don't answer with words. You gesture toward the trunk. It's open again. Of course it is. Inside, a new scroll. This one with their name on it. Their real name. The one they haven't said aloud in years. They stagger back. "How did you?" You raise a finger. It's not a trick. They don't ask more questions. They sit down, cup in both hands now, like it's the only warm thing in the world. Mainstream history note here. There's a lesser-known maritime tradition among lighthouse keepers along the Scottish coast. Whenever a new keeper arrived, the outgoing one left behind a letter. Not a manual, a memory. Instructions for the soul, not the station. They were called quietings, meant to ease the transition from sea to stone. You retrieve one now. Not for them, for you. Your own quieting. You read it under your breath. If you're reading this, it means you stayed. And that means you're ready. Not for answers, for echoes. Don't speak to silence. Listen to it. Let it teach you. You close the scroll and set it on the table. The visitor, your visitor, has stopped shaking. They're watching the window now, like they expect something. You know the look. You had it not long ago. The tower moans gently, a timber settling deep within its ribs. The visitor flinches. Does it always do that? You smile, only when it's listening. They pause, then whisper. What does it hear? You sip your tea. Everything we've forgotten to say. It's late now. Or early. The sun hasn't committed yet. But the tower doesn't care. It's not about time. It's about timing. You pull out a small notebook from beneath the table. leather-bound, worn, pages smelling like sea salt and ink. It's yours now. The new logbook, not for ships, for stories. You open to the first page. It's blank. Then, slowly, words begin to appear. You didn't write them, but you will. Eventually. For now, they're just waiting. You pass the book to the visitor. Add what you remember. They hesitate, then nod. Start writing. First slow, then fast. Not a report, a release. Somewhere between confession and lullaby. Outside, a gull cries. Inside, the room grows quieter. Not empty, just still. The kind of still that only arrives when something important is happening. They finish, close the book, hand it back. You don't read it. Not now. You tuck it back under the table. It's not your memory. It's just your job to keep it safe. They rise, step to the door, and then they smile. Not because they're cured, but because they're not lost anymore. They open the door and leave. The storm has cleared entirely now. The sea is glass again, reflective. You walk to the beacon room, check the flame. Still burning, but subtly different. Warmer, not just for sailors now, for seekers, for rememberers, for whoever comes next. Historians still argue whether the Flannan Isles disappearance was ever meant to be solved, or if the lack of answers was the point all along. Some claim the logbooks were doctored. Others suggest time distortion. One theory insists the keepers just stepped sideways. You look out over the ocean and wonder, what else has stepped sideways? What else is waiting to return? The storm doesn't return, but its echo stays behind. In the floorboards, in the fog, in the quiet between your heartbeats. You get used to it, sort of. You move like you've lived here for years now. Your feet know which planks creak the loudest. Your hand finds the kettle before your eyes are even open in the morning. If this place ever wanted to test you, it gave up. Or maybe it passed you. One morning, you find something new. A scrap of parchment slid beneath the door. It's damp, smudged, folded into a perfect square. You open it carefully. No letter, just a drawing. A spiral staircase descending into nothing. At the base, a door, unmarked. But somehow you know it's beneath the lighthouse. You've never seen a door down there. But now you're certain it's waiting. Of course it is. So you go looking. Not frantically. Not in a horror movie panic kind of way. Just casually. Like remembering where you left your keys. And eventually, under the old oil storage tanks, behind a shelf stacked with unopened letters dating back decades, you find it. Wooden. Heavy. With a lock that looks like it hasn't been touched since the sea first learned to whisper. You touch the handle. It opens. Of course it does. No creak. No sound at all. You step through, and the world tilts. It doesn't spin. Doesn't drop. Just shifts. Like you've stepped into the negative space of the lighthouse. The place it thinks in. You're underground now, but it doesn't feel like a basement. It feels like memory. The air is thick. Not with dust, with weight. Like every story ever held here is pressing down on you gently, like a sleepy cat. The staircase is real. Spiral. Stone. Slick with time. You descend. Each step hums beneath your feet, like it's checking your pace, your pulse, your permission. You don't stop. Halfway down, you pass carvings, etched into the walls. Not words, images. 3 lighthouse keepers, each with their own light. One holds a flame, one holds a key, one holds a scroll. You trace your fingers over the third, the scroll, and feel it hum back, You reach the bottom. It's a room, circular, echoless, built into the rock itself. And in the center, a chair, wooden, familiar, and a table, empty, except for one thing, a coin, same as before, yours. This time with the spiral staircase etched on one side, and the phrase, still listening. You pocket it, because of course you do. Then you sit. The room doesn't change, but your breathing does. Slower, steadier, and in that quiet, you hear them. The three, not ghosts, not quite, just impressions, like fingerprints on glass. They speak in order. First, the one with the flame. The light isn't for seeing, it's for remembering. Then, the one with the key. The lock was never meant to keep them out. It was meant to keep it in. Finally, the one with the scroll. You're not here to understand. You're here to echo. You lean forward. Speak aloud. What happened to you? Silence. Then, in unison. We stayed. You wait. Then ask, why? They answer separately this time. The flame, because someone had to keep the fire warm. The key, because the door needed guarding. The scroll, because forgetting is louder than silence. You nod. They don't say more. The room dims. Not darker, just older. You rise. The coin is warm in your pocket. You take the stairs back up. Slower now. Respectful. The lighthouse welcomes you back. The light blinks twice. You blink back. That night you write your own letter. Not a goodbye. Just a placement. A memory anchor. You tuck it in the shelf with the others. The unopened ones. But yours is different. It's unsealed. Because you know someone will read it. Eventually. Maybe when they're ready. Maybe when they're lost. Maybe when the sea tells them to. Mainstream fact. There's a theory in maritime folklore that some lighthouses aren't meant to guide ships, but to distract the sea, to keep it busy, focused, as if the ocean itself needs watching, as if it gets ideas when left alone too long. Historians still argue whether that's poetic nonsense or a half-remembered truth. You don't argue. You just keep the fire warm. You don't chase meaning. You echo it. You turn in for the night. The floor doesn't creak. The sea doesn't scream. You sleep like someone who finally knows where they are and why it matters. You wake before sunrise. Not because of a sound. Because of the quiet. It's too complete. Too still. The kind of stillness that usually means something's watching or waiting. You move through the lighthouse in your socks, each step a whisper on the wooden floors. You make tea out of habit, out of muscle memory, the kind of ritual that makes the day believe in itself. But when you look outside, everything's wrong. The sea isn't moving. The waves are there, frozen mid-crest, mid-collapse, like the whole ocean hit pause. You blink hard. Nothing changes. The kettle doesn't boil. The clock doesn't tick. Only you. Moving. You go outside. It's not cold, not warm either. Just placeholder weather. And on the rocks below the cliff, you see them. The keepers. Not spectral, not ghostly. Real, but not quite now. They walk in slow motion, like they're underwater. One stoops to gather something from the ground. Another watches the horizon. The third, he looks straight at you and smiles. Then everything snaps back. The sea roars. The wind hits your ears like applause. The birds above scatter like someone hit rewind on the sky. You're alone again. Sort of. You go back inside and find something you didn't put there. On your bed, a logbook, not your handwriting. It's old, leather-bound, smells like salt and thyme. You flip to the middle. There's an entry. Day 202. The silence held too long today. It bent. You read more. Day 214. Heard someone whisper my name. but I'm the only one here. Day 227. Dreamed of a door that leads down, not out. And then, day 241. The shift came at dawn. Everything paused. I saw them again. You close the book slowly. Your breath feels borrowed, and yet familiar. You carry the logbook to the top of the tower, the lantern room. You sit in the chair by the glass and watch the sea. This is the first time you feel the weight of the place, not just on your body, but in your name. Like the job isn't just keeper of light, but of story, of forgetting and unforgetting. Because maybe that's what happened to the original keepers. Maybe they didn't die. Maybe they got pulled sideways into a pocket of memory so dense it became its own weather system. You sit there for hours, watching, waiting, thinking, and then you see it. A boat, far out, not coming closer, just drifting, and on it someone stands, holding a light. You blink, gone. Historians still argue whether the Flannan Isles keepers were abducted, drowned, or driven mad. Some point to weather logs, others to sea shanties. A few brave weirdos whisper about temporal folds and places the sea can't reach. But the weird part, the keepers left their boots behind. Who walks out into a storm barefoot? You shake your head. The air smells different again. Like someone just struck a match in a library. You climb down, return to the logbook. You add your own entry. Day 1, the echoes don't sleep. You close the book and smile, not because you understand it all now, but because you've joined it. You're part of the echo. And tonight, like every night from now on, you'll light the flame. You'll keep the pulse. And when someone else drifts too close to the edge, to that border between questions and memory, you'll be here, not to explain, just to listen, because someone has to, and because you're ready now. You sleep with one eye open now, not from fear, from invitation. There's something about the quiet that started to feel like a conversation, like the lighthouse, the rocks, the sea. They're telling you a story that only makes sense when your body is half dreaming. You start writing more, not in the logbook, on scraps of paper, napkins, the back of a can label. Whatever's closest when the ideas land, and they land fast. Images you've never seen before. An anchor etched with runes. A staircase beneath the sand. A door made entirely of lighthouses stacked like vertebrae. You don't know what it means. You just keep writing. One night, you wake suddenly. There's someone in the kitchen. Not noise, just presence. You creep downstairs. Slowly. No knife. No flashlight. You know better than to fight this sort of thing with objects. And there she is. A woman. Drenched. Hair tangled with seaweed. Her clothes old. Century old. Barefoot, of course. She's making tea. And she hums. A low rattling tune like whale song. Run through an old music box. You freeze in the doorway. She turns. Smiles. And vanishes. Not with a pop. Not with smoke. Just fades. You walk over to the kettle. It's warm. Still humming faintly. You sit down. Hands on the table. And notice your scraps of paper gone. In their place. A single folded sheet. You open it. It reads, "The lighthouse doesn't keep the storm out. It holds the memory in." Mainstream fact here. The light in a lighthouse is called a first-order Fresnel lens. A marvel of physics that can project a beam for over 20 miles. It's not fire anymore, but focused memory. Technology made of glass and vision. You start calling your tower the Echo Room. It feels right. You build a shelf for the logbook. another for the notes. You draw a map on the wall, your own creation of what's beneath the island, not around it. Caverns, chambers, maybe one that hums. Historians still argue whether keepers experienced island madness, isolation, psychosis, a kind of time slippage. The Royal Navy had protocols for it, weekly signals, random checks, sanity charts. But the strange part, no one ever documented what came after a keeper left. Where are the diaries, the therapy records, the memoirs? You add that question to your wall, right next to another one. What if the lighthouse is the only thing still awake? You begin to notice patterns. When the fog rolls in just right, the birds land in the same spots. When the tide pulls too far out, your dreams pull too far in. When you speak aloud to the sea, it answers. Not in words, but in shimmers, in driftwood, in seashells shaped like ears. You start placing one on your nightstand each night, like it's listening. And each morning, it's gone. You find comfort in the repetition, the ritual, not to keep ghosts out, to let them know they're remembered. And then one night, you see a light on the horizon. Not the boat again. Something else. Flickering. Low. Rhythmic. A code. You scramble for your old signal chart, your flashlight, your journal. You decipher. Slowly. One word. Soon. That's it. No timestamp. No origin point. Just a promise or a warning. Or maybe both. You breathe in and smile. Because finally you're not just a watcher. You're part of the conversation. You're keeping time with the silence and whatever comes next. You're not afraid. You're curious. You wake before dawn. It's still dark enough that the stars haven't backed up yet, but there's a strange light coming from the window. Not moonlight, not dawn. A cool, silvery shimmer that pulses like breath. You sit up. No sounds, no wind, just that glow. You step outside. The island is different, not changed, just clearer, as if the fog wasn't hiding things but softening them. And now the veil has been pulled back. You walk down the path you've walked 100 times, but it feels new under your feet, firmer, like the stones themselves have decided you belong. The lighthouse looms behind you, no longer a tower of solitude, but a backbone. You feel it in your spine, and out on the edge where the land meets the sea, you see them, 3 figures standing still, facing you, all in old uniforms, tattered, salt-stained, but whole. One of them raises a hand, just a wave, not a warning, not a threat, just recognition. You don't wave back, you don't need to. They already know. Mainstream footnote here. The Flannan Isles mystery, the one about the 3 keepers who vanished, remains unsolved. No signs of struggle, no bodies, just a table set for dinner, a clock stopped at a strange hour, and oilskins left hanging on their hooks. Theories range from freak waves to mental breakdowns, but nothing fits. You take another step toward them, and they're gone. Not vanished, just stepped sideways like the Leia once did, like you once might. You sit where they stood. The view is better here. You see farther, wider, beyond the edge of what lighthouses are supposed to see, and you start to hum, a tune you don't remember learning. Low, simple, circular, and the sea hums back. Quirky fact for your collection. Sailors in the 1800s believed in singing currents, places where the tide made music. Scientists later dismissed it as auditory hallucinations caused by wind and wave patterns, but some maps still mark them, in quiet ink, in margins. You close your eyes and see the map, the one beneath the island. It's complete now, not with streets or tunnels, but memories, layers of voices, questions, footsteps. You see your own shape, your echo, etched into its paths. And you understand. The lighthouse isn't a building. It's a being, an archivist, a listener. Every keeper isn't just maintaining the light. They're recording the silence. And silence is never empty. It's just waiting. Historians still argue whether lighthouses will become obsolete. Automated beacons, GPS overlays, satellite grids. But no system replaces presence. No code replaces watching. No drone replaces someone who's willing to be alone with the story. You rise slowly. Return to the tower. Place your latest note into the shelf. It reads, "The keepers didn't vanish. They graduated." You pause at the door. The light blinks once. Not your doing. And you laugh. Softly, because of course it would. You pour a cup of coffee, let it go cold, and watch the sea breathe, and breathe back. The days begin to blend. You keep the light steady. You tend to the journal, the oil, the small ritual of it all. Wake, check, write, sweep, watch, sleep, maybe. Each action hums now with a different tone. Less maintenance, more reverence. You've stopped asking what happened to them. Not because you're giving up, but because the question already is the answer. The absence is the imprint. You reread their last note sometimes. Donald's entry about the birds circling too low. Thomas's scratchy map of where the stars were supposed to be. James's single line. It's louder at night. You don't know what he meant. But some nights, when the wind stills just right, and the sea hushes its endless footnote of waves, you think you do. You sit outside during those nights, blanket around your shoulders, feet in boots 2 sizes too big, and you listen to the rocks, to the lighthouse breathing, to the memory beneath your own ribs. Mainstream. Side note, there's been modern tech installed here now. A weather station, a seismic sensor, a signal repeater. It all hums and clicks and blinks like polite house guests. But none of it has explained the disappearances. And none of it records what the birds know. And they do know, because one now lands beside you. A shag, greasy looking, beady eyes that blink too slow. It drops something at your feet. Not a fish, a button, polished wood, torn thread still dangling from a keeper's coat. You pick it up, say nothing. The shag waddles away like its job is done. You put the button on the shelf next to the weather log. Let it sit there. Let it whisper. Fringe trivia time. In some Celtic traditions, birds weren't just messengers. They were intermediaries. Creatures that could ferry memory between sea and sky, living and dead. Seagulls, especially, were said to carry the last breath of the drowned. You look at the map again. Not the modern one. The old one. The one only you can see now, folded in the back of your thoughts. One more path lights up, north side of the island. Cliff edge. You pack a thermos, wrap the blanket tighter, and walk. It's different tonight. No wind, no crunch of gravel. Just your breath, soft and slow, and the button in your pocket ticking like a clock, with no hands. The path ends where the cliff begins, and below, you hear it. Laughter. Faint. Not cruel. Not mocking. Just echoing. From a time that doesn't line up with this one. You sit and wait. You don't know what for, but you know you're supposed to be here. Historians still argue whether the Flannan Isles disappearances were tragic, criminal, or cosmic. One theory even claims the men were abducted, not by aliens, but by time, that the island holds a fold, A soft spot. A doorway, too. Not a place. A moment. You pour your thermos. Let the steam rise into the dark. And there they are. 3 shapes again. Not solid. Not ghosts. But impressions. Wearing oilskins. Carrying lanterns. Walking a path below the cliff. Toward the sea. They don't look up. They don't stop. But they're smiling. And the strangest thing, you're smiling too. Because deep down, you get it. They didn't leave. They arrived. And now you're here. To make sure the next one does too. You don't go back to the keeper's quarters that night. You stay by the cliff. Legs tucked under you. The blanket damp from dew. The thermos long empty. The stars above you flicker in their usual indifference. And for once that feels comforting. The sea glows faintly in the moonlight, like it knows it's part of something older than all of this. There's no sign of the men, no sign of anything really, except that sense, that marrow-deep knowing that something shifted. You check your watch, then your phone, both dead, not out of battery, just not playing anymore. You laugh once, softly, because of course, you make your way back in the pre-dawn dimness, navigating the trail like it's muscle memory. Every rock, every turn, every twisted route feels familiar now, like it's learned you, like it's letting you walk this time, not just survive. At the top of the path, back near the light tower, you stop. The front door is open, not swinging, not forced, just open, like someone left it for you. And inside, on the main desk where the wind log sits, an envelope, not sealed, no address, just your name, not the one on your ID, the one you didn't know you remembered until now. You open it. The paper inside is old, creased, ink-faded. One sentence. You listened long enough. Now it's your turn to speak. You don't cry, but you do breathe differently. Like you finally got past the inhale. Mainstream side note for context. The idea of lighthouses being haunted isn't new, but they weren't always feared. Some ancient mariners believed lighthouse keepers were liminal figures, not just protectors, but recorders, witnesses to whatever passed between sea and storm. They weren't just guarding ships, they were keeping memory. You sit down at the desk, pick up the logbook, and begin to write your story, their story, the part that doesn't fit into reports or history books or creepy podcasts. Just the truth, the lived kind. You fill a few pages before stopping, not because you're finished, but because the light outside shifts. Dawn. You step outside again, and the lamp above you, still lit, still sweeping the sea with its slow, mechanical patience. The wind picks up, finally, cool, steady. There are birds overhead, 3 of them now, flying in a slow, deliberate loop. You watch them for a while, then glance down the hill. Someone's coming. A figure. Backpack. Slow steps. New keeper. Tourist. Someone else called here by the ache of not knowing. You wait for them to reach the gate. You smile and wave them in, because you know how this works now. You're not just here to watch anymore. You're part of the island, the keeper of its mystery, its voice, its welcome. So, you made it. All the way through fog and flame, mystery and silence. Footsteps that didn't belong to anyone still breathing. You sat with the missing. You walked in their shoes. You listened long enough to hear what wasn't being said. Now, you get to rest. The island is quieter now. Not because the mystery's solved, but because you're part of it. You've added your own breath to the wind, your own memory to the cliffside. That kind of presence doesn't just disappear. It stays. It lingers. It waits. So let it. Let the stories settle into you like mist. Let it soften the edges of your thoughts. Let it hum gently behind your eyes, like a lullaby you almost remember. You're safe here. You've done enough. There are no more lights to tend tonight, no more logbooks to fill, no more strange noises to investigate. Only this moment, this breath, this slow, steady drift into sleep. And if you dream of waves, or birds, or the faint sound of boots crunching gravel outside your door, that's okay. That just means you've left a light on for the next one. So go ahead, close your eyes. Let the lighthouse keep watch now. And sleep. Sleep long. Sleep easy. Sleep like someone who remembered just in time.